my dad really wanted this, short one-syllable names, so our name wouldn't be something else.
So you're not Marcus.
No, I am not Marcus.
You are Mark.
I am Mark. And then, of course, my mom called me Gus for years, and my dad called me Gomer for years.
Sure.
Really?
Mark, you should not have told us that.
No. Well, hey, man, when they were naming me, I was one tick mark away from being Horatio.
Nice.
So
I like that
The
name.
last two names were Horatio and Mark. And that's the one they picked.
You won that lottery.
Well,
I did. I really did.
Well, and I think that when my wife and I were coming up with names, and my tendency to think about that, I think was born mostly of, because my name didn't really get made fun of when I was a kid. My first name did.
Mine didn't until Garbage Pail Kids happened and Mark Bark came out.
Garbage Pail Kids did a lot of people wrong.
Yes, I did.
I really think that my experience as a gamer in naming characters and trying to avoid names that could be made fun of played a lot of influence on that.
I was kind of poo-pooed right out of the gate because I kept messing with Sandy saying, I want our son's name to be Artemis. I was using like old legionnaire names, old Greek names.
Maxis.
Say, Artemis is a female goddess. Why would you do that to your son?
Because you could call him Art.
Right. Artemis was, at the time, it was a Inquisitor miniature for Warhammer.
Oh, okay. Okay.
A Space Marine named Artemis.
I see.
And he's badass.
Yeah.
You
What
want your
else you
son
got?
to be a badass?
What else you got,
don't
Mike? What else you got?
Oh, I got nothing.
I got nothing, Mike says.
Used it all.
We kind of talked about Shadowrun a little bit. I had thought about how difficult it is for us to come up with a good Shadowrun name sometimes.
Yeah.
Because you want it to sound to your career, and it's it's all along the lines of
my rigger was called The Driver.
giving it.
Well done.
Yeah, and it's along the lines of giving yourself
Special
a
Ed
nickname.
was a good name.
Well,
It's
there you
really
go.
hard to give yourself a nickname until you've
Spicoli.
earned it.
Right.
Spicoli
That's
was
right.
from
Jeffrey
Fast
Don
Times.
Fast Times.
Spicoli.
Yeah, Fast Times. at
Well,
Ridgemont High.
that's using movie characters as names, but Brian was always the cleaner from
from
La Femme
La
Nikita.
Femme Nikita.
He didn't know it was from La Femme Nikita. He thought it was from, what was that?
Point of No Return.
Point of No Return.
Right.
We didn't really
Point of
bring
No
up,
Return was like the American version of
It was that's exactly what it was.
We didn't talk about our pirate campaign, surprisingly, and how we came up with some of them names.
No.
I think they all.
What do you mean? You talk about
Our current.
the Sea Princess
All
campaign.
alcohol based.
We all know.
Oh, Sean.
Those are great. Those are great names, though.
Alcohol-based names.
Snorrison was.
Which actually, I came up with a couple of those names before I made that second character. I had the name picked before.
You were ready.
Yeah, John Jameson.
I'm waiting for Jonathan Goldsmith, who is the most interesting
Jonathan
man in the
Goldsmith
world.
is my third name.
Goldschlager.
My character name in that was Araxo Titan was a character name that I had come up with for an online game that went nowhere.
Right.
And I really liked the name. And I remember the reason why Jason was leery of the name was because it had an X in it. And he was like, any name with an X in it has to be bad.
What I like about that group is we have a kind of a mix of name conventions. You have Sean with the alcohol. Yours is, I would say, fantasy, right?
Right.
Dan's is real world
Mine's,
names, right?
I started out with, because I like Hammond from Top Gear, so I wanted to use Hammond's last name.
Yeah,
Yes.
I like that.
Jason's
And I wanted a 3-name name.
My
It's Aztec,
Aztec name,
right?
and then Mark is pure nonsense.
Because Mark didn't like his character.
Well, that was the thing with Pickles. He was like, Pickles isn't really Pickles' name.
Pickles.
That's just the first thing that he said.
Yeah.
When his
Because that's what he was thinking about when somebody
Right.
asked him, what's your name? And it was like, Pickles? And
And I think,
Pickle.
unlike most campaigns we usually end up in, I bet everyone knows everyone's character's name in that campaign.
yes.
Yes.
I kept wanting to call Sean Araxo, and it never. I just like no, couldn't do it.
So, getting other people to remember your character name is always the challenge.
Oh yeah.
Is that the benchmark then? You've got a good name if it's rememberable
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
by other
And,
people.
and I think
Right.
it helps
I
if,
mean, I
if the
remember
name's-
Valcon because I have to hear about him every week.
Well, that's more repetition than anything.
It's funny that I had myself convinced that I had created that on my own. I mean, I had this vague recollection that I had seen the name somewhere, but I could never find it.
I find it very hard to believe that your memory is cloudy.
Well, then we finally had a listener actually point out where I had come
Yes.
up with the name, and I thought and I was
Where you had
happy.
stole the name.
You know, well, whatever. I just I tweaked it, I changed it a little bit, and I had a couple of my boxes of comics down the other day. I should have pulled it open and see if that was in there so I could look it up.
There was like 18 comic books.
Oh, man. That's,
Yeah, in a garage.
There's probably a
You're no
fortune up
true
there.
comic book fan.
Yeah, we should probably.
He's a married comic book fan.
We didn't dwell very long on superhero naming, which is very hard.
It's
Yeah,
hard.
no,
It's
yeah,
so hard.
Taylor,
It is.
Taylor to the powers.
Yeah.
And,
The name for my character, Adam Champion, was from back when I used to draw a lot. And I was in the military, I would draw superheroes and things like that. And I drew a guy just like an atomic-powered guy, and I called him the Atom Champion, ATOM Champion. And that character name stuck with me. Later on, I thought, well, a play on the word atom, ATOM, is ADAM, Atom Champion.
Yeah.
So I thought that's kind of an interesting twist to that. So I had drawn like the evolved character of Atom Champion, and then I decided when we started playing that name, saying that name, the picture in my head was the blonde-haired, blue-eyed jock,
Yeah,
all-American
right.
boy. That kind of thing, and so that's who I wanted to play. So that's what I named him.
I can't even remember my character's name from that campaign.
Hard ass McHarderson.
Yes.
hard as
He was a wizard.
hard.
17-year-old abandoned at birth, so I'm hard.
Drinking.
He wasn't abandoned. His parents died. He was raised by his like evil aunt.
No, you were raised by MI7.
That's right, yeah.
No, I joined MI7.
Spike.
What else did we
I
miss?
still can't remember that guy's name.
Sebastian Kane.
Sebastian Kane. That was his name.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well done, Mike.
Right.
We only played those characters for like 3 years.
Yeah.
There was another guy you named
I don't think I ever came up with a name for my character.
Turnaround.
Turn around.
But did
That
I really?
was given to you.
Yes.
They,
Yeah.
yeah.
You opted not to come up with a name, and someone gave you a nickname.
That's the inevitable
Who gave
end.
me turnaround?
Because that's what you were always doing. I guess.
Oh, that's right. The
You sure it
turnaround
wasn't
ability.
reach around?
Oh, he's trying.
I did hear a thing about when I was watching an episode of Leverage recently, where they had the briefing, like, this is who we're going up against. Okay, now this guy's name's Eric, blah, blah, blah. And you can tell he's evil because it's Eric with a K. And they just kind of went on this thing. It was like, everybody knows Eric with a K is evil.
But talking about real names, I think a way to go about that for gaming, I like to do is, and I know you guys probably do too, is take a real name and then just put a spelling twist on it.
Yeah, put a little swerve on it.
Scramble
Because
it.
a name that actually sounds realistic tends to be more accepted than throwing out.
And it's more remembered.
I call that the George Martin.
I totally
Yeah.
agree. There's nobody, as far as I'm concerned, that's better at it than that.
Better
guy
at
is.
dropping a letter from a typical name and making it a cool name.
And seriously, how easy would that have been
Oh, yeah.
when we were younger making characters? Just drop a letter there, throw a Y in this, and boom, done.
Yeah.
And it sounds right because you're
Yeah.
used to hearing the names sound
Right.
kind of like that. you know?
Right. And some of the names he uses are just normal names. Like, I think there's a
Screw that guy and his talent. I don't
Yeah.
like people with talent anymore.
Damn talented people.
Isn't there a guy named Roger?
I don't know.
In,
Probably.
Joffrey is a real name. It's not typical in America, but yeah.
I know when me and Brian used to go out on the weekends, we'd always use our middle name and the street you lived on.
No,
Well, that's
That's similar to the porn name
women call
convention.
that their bar name.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that was our bar name.
Yeah,
you know.
and women do that too.
Mine's
And
Bill Rosewood. It's not that good.
Billy Rosewood.
That is a
That's
good
your
name.
next old
That-
West
That's
name.
an old West
Actually,
name.
I think we've had this conversation
Yeah,
before.
Billy Rosewood.
Billy Rosewood was Judge Reinhold from Beverly Hills Cop.
How about that?
Yes.
Wow.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
A font of
Thank you.
useless knowledge.
Thank you, Rain Man.
You're every bit as guilty of that as I am.
This is why
Not right now.
This is why
Between
we're
the
good
two
at
of us,
trivia.
we're like, nerd wiki.
But you don't live on Rosewood, so that would.
No, it's the street you grew up on. And I'm,
Yeah.
and I'm
Oh.
not going to go by Bill Greenapple.
Well, I can't go by Sean Route 3.
or Sean Liberty.
Yeah.
Sean Liberty.
Actually,
American Gladiator.
back then,
That's your wrestler name.
back then it was Sean Fletcher.
That's not bad.
No.
Fletch was a great movie.
Right.
Okay, so this whole episode was for one thing, and I've been trying to think of who started this one thing.
I think it was Mike.
I really do.
I think it was Mike also.
I think it kicked off as a joke more than anything.
Halfling naming convention.
Because yes, naming your halfling. Yes.
What
And
was the
And
first
we
one?
have yet to play a halfling since I just came up
So,
with it.
so what was the first one, Mike? Because I remember you saying it. I just don't remember.
Well,
There was a
the-
couple.
We had
there's
been
the
going to all
premise.
these restaurants to eat on Mondays, and you say, there's hardly any restaurants where I live, but when I go south down to where Eric lives, there's so many different restaurants. So I'm looking at all
We're
these
all
different
right off of that
names,
highway.
and all these names are floating around my head, and then you start putting two and two together. and you end up with RB Cracker Barrel.
Yeah.
Which is like the greatest halfling name ever.
So there's RB Cracker Barrel, and then there was another one.
Because there's an Arby's and a Cracker Barrel close by where we game. So you're like, oh, okay, Arby Cracker Barrel.
I ate at it wasn't a good restaurant. It was actually kind of a crappy restaurant in Chicago. It was John Barleycorn. Like, this is a great halfling name. And my favorite that's not really appropriate, but is
Sounds
Show
like
Me
some kind of
Hooters.
foot disease.
Show me Hooters.
Show me.
Well,
Show me Hooters.
it works on many levels because halflings associate with food, and
Right.
have a food name. It's just amazing.
Jimmy John Whitecastle.
Hardy McDonald.
Harvey McDonald's.
Hardy
Hardy
McDonald.
Hardy McDonald.
Harvey McDonald and his brother Denny.
Carl's Jr.
I could do this all day.
Now, okay, so there's coming up with good names, but what are some of the bad names? I mean, we've can you think of any?
I think Rick the Enchanter is a bad name because he just didn't care. That's my contention.
Rick the Immaculate Jimmy.
That guy too.
Bad names.
I was never called Rick the Enchanter until after we were done playing that game.
Names with too many apostrophes.
Oh yeah,
Hyphenation.
that's something you get from Robert Jordan's great for that. Just
One.
putting apostrophes and things.
When it's just too completely made up.
Yes.
Well, yeah,
That's one of the
what?
problems I had whenever I read Dune the first time. It was just
Yeah.
too many made up words for the sake of making up words.
Right. Or when you know that people are trying too hard.
Exactly.
Like in Star Wars, there's Dash Rendar. I mean,
Right.
come on.
Right.
But Star
Yeah.
Wars does have that's a naming convention. Star Wars has, you can see a Star Wars name and say, oh, that's Star Wars.
That's a Star Wars character. Yeah, I could.
There's a certain feel to Star Wars names.
Now that we've brought Star Wars up,
It was bound to happen.
to me, in order to make it simple for me, well, I already make it simple by playing the same kind of character. I always
Right.
play a smuggler, and I always use the same last name. My
Last
character's
surname.
name is always
You know,
Denier.
It's funny that you do that because you've been doing that for a long time, and now in the MMO, that's become a big thing. Legacy.
Right.
Yep.
And I never really thought about it until it came out in the MMO, and it's like, that's really what that whole story is all about. Is about one family and that name. And you're doing the same thing, even if you didn't mean to do it that way. It's still you're doing what the theme of the whole
I mean,
setting
as in
is.
Skywalker.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
You make a character and you go by that family name. And you don't, you could play different characters and things like that, but it totally fit. And I was like, wow, Jason's been doing that forever.
Yes, Dan.
Tim Hortons.
Yeah, that would work.
I'm trying to work out something with Dunkin', like Dunkin' Donuts.
Duncan Fuddruckers.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah. Okay.
I like it.
All right.
Duncan Fuddrucker.
Yes.
Hey, join the podcast here, Sean.
I am. I'm on it.
He's looking up
I'm
fast
having
food
fun,
names.
Mike.
Fast food.
I'm paying attention.
Anyhow, staying on Star Wars, so we can get out. Of the way.
Hagen das Wiener Schnitzel.
I'm Der Wiener Schnitzel. May I take your order, please?
I'm always interested in the how they name the Darths. The Darths.
I was
have
I was thinking about
Yeah,
that the other
system
day.
to that.
They have a root word that they've kind of put the George Martin on. Like Vader is clearly invader of something,
Mall is a mall.
Well,
Insidious.
Yeah. Vader, I think he came up with Vader way before he came up with that whole naming convention.
Well, originally Darth
yeah.
wasn't a title; Darth was a name.
Yeah, and Vader is, I can't remember.
Dutch for father.
It's Dutch for father.
But it's definitely taken
and
off.
Darth
Dark
meant
father,
dark.
right?
Yeah.
Dark father.
So,
and they were emo before emo was even a thing.
exactly. Emo
But
hipster.
yeah, no, Mark's right. It's definitely evolved into now they take a word that has a
And it's
negative
usually
connotation.
like not negative connotation or Latin, some
Yeah,
Latin
right.
meaning, and then
Was
just
it-
twist it.
Was Count Dooku a Darth of any kind? I don't recall.
He was Darth
Tyrannus.
Darth
Tyrannus. Yeah. Tyrant.
Maul.
Darth Maul. He's clearly going to maul you.
Darth Plagueis.
Darth Plagueis. He was a kind of a disease thing.
That's how you do it.
Darth Bane.
Yeah.
I want to see a Darth Shanker.
Darth Shanker.
No, that's the worst word ever.
Shanker.
I hate that word.
You know what's funny is
Darth Shingles.
you get somebody who has an aversion to that kind of, to a particular word, and then as soon as people find out, they use that word all the time.
They go out of their way.
They go
to
out of
use
their
it.
way. At work, there was a student working with us who could not stand the word moist.
Apparently, that's a thing.
I don't really care for it either. Now that you say it,
And so, of course,
Moist.
everything was moist for the rest of the day.
Yes.
yes, and in a hospital that is really nasty.
If cake is moist, things
My
must be
my
moist.
favorite moist story is that, and it's a total tangent, but that's okay. That's what we do. So I'm at work. This was quite a few years ago, and one of my coworkers, name's Larry, had brought his own stuff to make a pita at work. Fajitas and all that stuff. And he had his the little warmer for pita bread and everything. And one of the girls sits down and she looks over and she goes, "Larry, your pita is so moist."
Totally ruined lunch.
And of course, I laughed at her.
I thought you were going to bring up the old lady story.
No, not that.
No.
No,
That's not appropriate
We
for,
won't go
for
there.
a public forum.
No.
I have plenty of